Hello and welcome to welcome to the last Comic Book Chronicles of the 2021s. I know the 2021s are finally ending, folks. That's why it's a delayed reaction. This is the Comic Book Chronicles, and I am Roddykat. You can your host. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, @agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
And you can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast virtual place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network SoundCloud page. You could also find us recording every Thursday night, most Thursday nights, 9:30-ish p.m. on the twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles and the YouTube channel of the Click Nation.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and hit the notification button.
Yeah, especially on the Twitch page, because we really want to do some things on there, some more streaming and you know, just put some more shows up from the past that people might be interested in. So yeah, hit that so we can get there and do that. But folks, this is the last show of the 2021, and I can't stress this enough. I am so happy this year we're going to be over. So we are going to swiftly go through our impressions of, but we said Star Trek. Sorry folks, the Trekkie's back up. Trek is back up. Star Wars, the Book of Boba Fett, episode 1. And actually, oops, wait, do we get a recap of that?
No.
Oh. Okay. I guess.
And I couldn't find one that was the way we like it, which is chronological.
Yeah, that's and I would imagine they're probably not going to put that much into this one. So I'm not surprised by that. So let's just go into basic impressions of it. Then we won't worry about a recap so much. Because I can remember a lot of it, but at the same time, it's like, okay.
While Roddykat goes and gives his impressions, I will continue to look for one and see if there's something worth sharing.
Okay. That's fair enough then. So for the most part, like I can't say that it's Mandalorian levels of starting, because obviously this is a spinoff from the Mandalorian because it's based on Boba Fett, you know, the biggest baddest bounty hunter in the Star Wars universe. You know, that is pretty much coming back into prominence, but it's also set after the events of Return of the Jedi, if I'm not mistaken, because Jabba's gone. And it definitely does. Oh, thank you. It definitely does take some beats from oops. I knew that was gonna happen. Sorry folks, the video is a little skewed up right now. There we go. Now we're back in order. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. Like I said, you don't really expect all of every show to kind of be. I know there are some people that do expect shows to kind of just come out the gate blazing and continue to be blazing for every episode that it does, which is, I feel like it's kind of unrealistic. But also, these are the days and times we live in, because people's attention levels are terrible. So anyway, now that we have this here recap, let's see. So it was called Stranger in Strangeland. That was the name of the episode. And we'd see a kind of a walkthrough through Jabba's palace, which was empty. But it goes up, kind of goes upstairs. It almost felt like one of those. I don't know if Angel said if you've seen them, one of those Star Trek videos that they've been putting out. Like it'll be a walkthrough of the video or the vehicle or some biome or something like that.
Yeah, you said Star Trek again.
Yeah, I don't know. That's gonna happen, folks. So so don't take it personally. So I love both properties, but look,
I absolutely get that. I absolutely do.
So, but Star Wars, yes. But anyway, like I said, it's yeah. We end up going through walk through Jabba's palace. It goes upstairs where we see Boba Fett in a bacta tank, and he's dreaming about I believe he was dreaming about his escape from the Solid Clip.
Yeah, exactly. What I was going to say is in the broadest terms. Spoiler alert incoming, folks.
Oh yes.
In 3, 2, 1, we are spoiling at least certain chunks of the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 1. Here we go. All right. So as Roddykat said, when we open up this scene into Jabba's former palace, basically we encounter Boba Fett in a bacta tank, and he is dreaming, and we're getting flashbacks to what we had all imagined we would never see, which is, spoiler alert again, how Boba Fett got from his presumed fate in Return of the Jedi to where we found him in The Mandalorian. That includes all of the gory details of how he escaped the Sarlacc pit.
So it's worth noting at this point that this is basically taken from Extended Universe, because there was a book in Extended Universe that told how Boba got out of the Sarlacc pit. Slightly different though, because it's slightly different because I believe he had to blow. Well, from what I remember reading, he had to blow up his armor or blow up his jetpack to get out of there. And causes injuries. In this case, he uses a flamethrower, but which still kind of some of the same. What ended up happening, he ended up getting injured trying to get out of there. By the way, he gotten out. So we see him crawling out of the pit.
It's worth noting that. Hold that thought. It's worth noting that Boba Fett does not escape unscathed. He is not undamaged. He has sustained several hit points worth of damage in Black Pit.
Not you using video game terms.
Yeah, role-playing, video game, same thing.
Sure. Well, yeah, you're right. But yeah, so he gets out. He's not unscathed. He's found by a group of Tusken Rangers. They ride single file to hide their numbers, all that good jazz. Oh, excuse me. No. First, he's found by Jawas.
Right. He is pillaged by Jawa.
Yeah, he gets looted basically. he gets looted by the Jawas who take the.
He can't fight back. He can't get up. He's just getting raided by them.
Right. You can forget. This is on Tatooine, which is a desert planet, and 2 suns, and he's already just escaped the Sarlacc pit, so he's pretty much spent, and he was just kind of damn near dead, if not close enough. So Jawas come along, pick him up, pick off his armor, which this is going to allude to later on. Well, alludes back to the Mandalorian season 2 when someone else gets the armor. So we know where that happens from that. I doubt if they're going to rehash that part.
Right. That's a mild. That's a spoiler for also. If you've gotten to this point where you're watching the Book of Boba Fett, you're also going to need to have watched the 2nd season of The Mandalorian. And the 1st season as well for to boot, because that's really what ties everything together. And we see what ended up happening to Boba Fett's armor in season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. And how he ends up getting it back.
Right.
That being said, the Jawas pick him apart. They leave. Some Tusken Raiders come in, like I said, single file, hide their numbers, all that jazz. They check and see if he's dead. I guess that's what they were doing. They were kind of poking at him, but to come to find out he doesn't, they give him water and they take him prisoner and take him back to their camp. And he's tied up next to some Rodian who who obviously does, well, not obviously, who doesn't last long. But if you think about any red shirts in the Star Trek universe, they don't last long. And this is a red Rodian, so so
That's funny.
you got to take that from that. Boba, sees his predicament, gets himself untied and tries to escape. Doesn't quite go well because he gets caught by the gets recaught by the Tusken Raiders. Not before getting the shit beat out of him a couple of times. Now that I think about it,
Right.
By some of them, including this one young one who kind of takes him along. And actually, it might be no, that's right. So then we cut from this to Fennec Shan, aka Ming Na Wen, aka very beautiful woman. Wakes up Boba from the back of the tank. Says, "Hey, we got company. People are there to pay tribute to him," and they go down. He gets dressed and go downstairs, to greet the folks. Let me see. So yeah, an envoy to the mayor of Mos Espa comes by, and there's a couple other people. Like the Trandoshan comes by with a Wookiee pelt. There was somebody right before that, I can't remember, but they basically gave him a little box of coins or something and pushed off. Then the Trandoshan, and then this envoy to the mayor of Mos Espa comes by, with no tribute at all, but basically hints that that Boba owes the mayor a tribute. So,
right, it's a reverse shakedown.
Exactly.
Because, in this case, what we're all presuming and what Boba Fett is presuming is that he's the crime lord, so he should be the one who's shaking down all of these denizens of his territory in order to receive a tribute so that they can continue to do business on his territory. And this emissary, this delegate from the mayor, tries to turn the tables on Boba Fett, and Boba's not having it. And soon we'll find out what happens because of that.
Yep. So after a little back and forth between them two, the delegate leaves, and Boba and Fennec basically said, "Let's go." So they say they're pretty much walking down the street and didn't want to get carried like Jabba used to, because Boba wants to rule in a different way than Jabba did. Having worked for Jabba and seen how he ruled, he didn't want to be like that. He wanted to, as he said, he wanted to rule with respect and not fear. And Fennec kind of reminded us, like, you know what, fear kind of works sometimes. Then it goes to this cantina, which we see Max Rebo and crew, or in his new crew after what happened in Return of the Jedi. He's got a new crew, and he's jamming out in there. We meet Twi'lek in the form of Jennifer Beals, who owns the place. Which I see they didn't really do any makeup on her. They just basically was like, well, they gave her the headdress, and it was like, go with your natural skin, which is not an issue because there are Twi'leks of many colors in the Star Wars universe, so that was me. But I was just like, oh man, boo. Kind of want to see it, but it was good to see Jennifer Beals. Anyway, so they introduce themselves, and they get the tribute from her, and then they walk back out. It is noticed, I guess, that there are droids serving in this here establishment, as opposed to back in the Star Wars, where they don't serve their kind here. Not saying there weren't droids in there, but still, it's a good kind of a thing. But anyway, they get they chop it up for a second. They get their tribute in the form of their helmets full of Republic coin or New Republic coins, and they leave. And then they get attacked by some. We don't know who these folks are, but we know they have they have shields and electrostaffs.
Right, and parkour skills as well.
Exactly. Yes, I thought about that too. Parkour.
A lot of parkour going on in this battle scene, and subsequent chase scene between Fennec Shand and these would-be assassins. Ultimately, what we find out here is that someone has put a mark or has marked Boba Fett for elimination, and sent these guard types with these digital shields and battle staves, these shocks battle staves, and we still don't know at this point who has sent them, but we have a couple of suspects.
Right.
Ultimately, what else we glean from this is that Boba Fett is still not, even though he kicked some butt. Granted, it was Stormtrooper butt, but he did kick some butt in the Mandalorian. But when faced with a higher caliber opponent, Boba's still maybe a step or two behind.
Yeah,
And you see that he needs the aid of the back of the tank right away after his encounter with these would-be assassins.
right. So which is I thought was kind of odd because we're like, yeah, he was kind of doing a little something in Boba Fett. I mean, in Mandalorian, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that it was a little bit different fight than, and plus he had a little bit more help with Finnick, and well, he had Finnick with him on this one, but and the Mandalorian in the fights in the Mandalorian. So it was kind of curious that it was like, okay, well, this was the case, but he also didn't have all his gear with. Well, I guess he did have most of his gear with him, didn't he? But again, like you said, he still needed back to tank because he was still kind of recovering from his injuries that we found out that he has, which is why they set that up in the beginning. Also,
Right.
there was one part I forgot to mention. There was 2 Gamorrean guards that came in to tribute that were from basically Jabba's old guard, and Boba ends up taking them back in. And Finnick was like, I don't know if that's a good idea, but okay. So, and I mentioned that because those guards end up coming in and being quite helpful in this battle that they get into. More so than they did with Luke in the beginning of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Gamorrean guards in Jedi definitely did not quit themselves very well because if I recall, 1 or 2 of them ran away squealing. Unfortunately, because they are pig-like in nature and in appearance. So it was kind of interesting to see some Gamorrean guards actually earn their keep in this issue.
Yeah.
In this episode, that is. So that was pretty interesting. So
and then we're gonna kind of wind it back down with the rest of the episode with because
right. The rest of the episode has Boba Fett continuing to do flashbacks to his to that time when he has been taken prisoner by the Tusken Raiders, and he's basically ordered to dig for water by a young Tusken Raider. He's out there with the Rodian, with the red Rodian, and while they're looking for water, like these kind of shell creatures that store water under the and live underneath the sand on Tatooine. A 4-armed sand beast. I was like, is it 4-armed or 1 arm and 4 legs? I thought that was a pretty interesting design.
Yeah, I was thinking Goro from Mortal Kombat at first, but I was like, huh, that's weird.
Right, because of the way the creature's legs are articulated or the arms are articulated, it was very different. I thought it was actually a pretty novel design, and I was actually fixated on watching that part, just the design of the creature.
Right.
And basically, the Red Rodian does what a good red shirt does. This is not Star Trek, but we all know what a good red shirt does.
Exactly.
And Boba is able to take down this monster and defend the young Tusken Raider that has been tasked with babysitting him in the Rodian. And when they head back to camp with the head of the sand creature, all of the older Tuskens are impressed, and they basically accept Boba as at least an equal, and they offer him some water.
Right. Yeah, and a couple of things to note about that, because I want to say the dude, the Tusken that gives Boba the water is probably the father and the chief of the father of the kid and the chief of this group, because you can kind of tell. but also there was a moment right before this happened to where okay, to where they ended up on a moisture farmer, and they see the moisture farmer get taken down by some raiders or whatever the case may be. I can't remember what they were called, but and I think this is also another callback to Mandalorian, because I think the thing that they painted on the moisture farmer's door was something that also came up in Mandalorian. But yeah, but cutting back to the end of that is that they get back to the camp. But also worth noting that Boba Fett took down the creature in the same way that Leia took down Jabba, just choking with the chains. So that's probably a clear callback, I'm sure someone will make. But yeah, but like I said, after they get back to the camp and they present, and the head is presented, and the dude gives them the water, and Boba's drinking, and then the episode ends. So, and this, I think this is obviously an allusion to something that kind of came up in the Mandalorian, because when we first see Boba, we see him as a hooded figure. We see him with one of the Texas Raiders sticks. So, you can kind of take that from that, is how he gets to that point, which means they're probably not I don't think there's anything else on that part outside of the fact of him finding Fennec, which I'm pretty sure they'll probably go into next episode. But that's it. Otherwise, like I said, it was a pretty good episode. Like I said, I don't know what else to expect. It was
understanding is that this is a 7-episode series.
Okay, I was wondering.
And I don't know how much time they're going to spend on flashbacks before they really start to delve deep into the current and future storyline that Boba Fett is going to explore in this series. Right. I hope they don't spend too much more time on flashbacks, because the main flashbacks that we got in this episode were the ones that were the most important, which is how Boba Fett survives the Sarlacc pit and eventually makes his way to where we find him in The Mandalorian. So anything else I think would be extraneous. Whether or not we find out more about the goings on Tatooine. I mean, I think that's the gist of the show. So I think that's going to be most of it.
Right.
So we're not going to, I hope we're not going to do too much more of these flashbacks, because I think it's enough.
No, I mean, if anything, because it's also worth noting, I guess, because we did get some other flashbacks early on in the show back to young Boba on, one on Camino, 2 when Jango died, in episode 2, and I think there was probably a couple more, but that's a bit of it. So yeah, just like I don't expect there to be too much more, because like I said, most of the stuff that we got in this one is the stuff that people wanted. Like there's probably going to be a couple of, like I said, there's a flashback between. There's going to be the stuff with Fennec, obviously, and probably how them two. That probably one more set to where between them two, but I don't suspect there's going to be too much more than that, because like I said, between this and probably the next episode is probably going to set up everything that's needed. But who's to say? That being the case, though, we can move on to talking about Matrix Resurrections. And then we're not going to talk about this too much, because like we kind of spend a lot of time on
just to give Roddykat some room to give his thoughts on the Matrix Resurrections, because I believe I spoke on this last week, so I will chime in when necessary, but I will let Roddykat give his take once the spoiler bell rings in 3, 2, 1. Spoilers for Matrix Resurrections incoming.
So the funny part about it is it's a weird one to spoiler, because I feel like I've seen another thing. We've seen another pop culture property do something similar to what the Matrix Resurrections do to this, in that, hey, we're going to recount some things that happened in the last trilogy while we're going along and setting up this potential new trilogy. We're not still clear on that part, but so it's basically a sequel and a reboot at the same time.
Right.
And again, we have seen that in recent history, so that's, it is what it is. That being said, I don't know. I feel like I have not seen the summative issues that some people have had with this one. I'm not as bothered with this one as I have been with some probably more blatant ones. Some would say Force Awakens kind of retread old ground. Like this one did it while acknowledging the fact, you know, that the old ground is there. In fact, uses that old ground to set up this one. Which, if you think about the way the Matrix movies ended up being set up with the last trilogy, like kind of makes sense, but you're kind of wondering, why certain things happened the way they did still. That being said, like I said, for the most part I enjoyed it. Like I said, I wasn't as bothered by the flashbacks because I was watching it with somebody who I had recently watched all three of the trilogies, so just in case they kind of went a different way with it, but still do what they did do, and you know, kind of reference some things, and they totally did, and so a couple of people showed up. One very hilariously, not hilariously, one very amusingly showed up that I wasn't really expecting to show up during a fight scene and just spouting all kind of hipsterisms. But that was kind of enjoyable. But for the most part, like I'm not sure where they're going to go with this, but they set up something potentially interesting. But the problem is they did that with the first they did that with the first Matrix movie, and the other two movies kind of took that in. You know, you can say what you want about the Reloaded and the Revolutions, like the promise was there, but sometimes it didn't necessarily stick to landing all great.
So I would say the one thing I would add is that, at least from what I've read, they don't have plans to go beyond this fourth Matrix movie.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, this is definitely a never say never type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I would say that at least in terms of where we leave the characters in this installment of the series, that you know we kind of have gone back to the ending of the first Matrix,
Mm-hmm.
and leave ourselves with an idea of what might come, but nothing concrete and nothing as well. I don't know if they would ever decide to throw a gigantic, or like a literal 12-6 curveball and throw in more like a Zion or I forget what the new name, Io. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so they would have like another orgy scene in Io in another follow-up sequel to this to Matrix Resurrection. So
Right.
I don't know if that would be the case, but you know, I'm content with where they leave it. I get some of the metaphor that they're going with, you know, trying to attempt to put together the allegory and the symbolism that they're employing, and obviously some of the meta shots that they take at Warner Brothers during the course of the film, like literally by name.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's an interesting mix. It's not the worst thing that you could see. I think if you ignore a lot of the details of the plot and just kind of enjoy the ride that you're on, knowing that it's a general idea, knowing what the general idea of the Matrix is, I think is going to be the most entertaining way to take in this film.
Right. Yeah, like it was kind of fun. Like it was kind of fun. Actually, that just reminded me of something I need to put in the news. But yeah, even the movie set of the fact that it's like, yeah, we're basically here. You know, there are basically no new ideas under the sun, only regurgitation of ideas and this and that. I was like, okay, they're really kind of beating people upside the head with these references and you know and callbacks and you know the fact that there's nothing new under the sun. They just want more of this and like you said, which is a Wachowski thing to do. You know, to kind of have these little meta commentaries. Like not even just in the Matrix, in their other movies also. And like, granted, this is only one of the Wachowskis, but still. But that was a thing to be expected in this movie, and it was there. So, you know, what was your favorite character? Just out of curiosity, real quick. Or who?
I like Bugs.
Yeah. Obviously,
because
well, not obviously, but yeah, go ahead.
You know, breath of fresh air with Jessica Henwick.
Yes.
And I would say, I I wasn't so happy with the Smith slash um, Morpheus melding. That was a little weird.
Yeah.
I didn't quite jive with that. I think that let's see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much, those are the characters that really stood out for me in terms, and obviously they're the ones that stand out in the script for this movie. So I think that those are pretty much the two characters I think that got the most shine. I think Bugs, Henwick's character, did a bang up job. So
which again, Bugs, Warner Brothers. Come on, folks.
Exactly. I mean, that was some clear meta stuff, right? Metatextual stuff right there.
Mm-hmm. But the good part about it, and the spoiler alert, hey, none of the crew died as opposed to what happened in the original Matrix.
Exactly.
And there was a couple of other crew members that I was like, there was one crew member that was slightly annoying, like the operator dude.
Right.
But the other two was like, okay, I hope these two felt like they were set up to die, but they didn't, because it was like the two that were always talking to each other. But I kind of like them also. But yeah, definitely Jessica Henwick's the Bugs, and yeah, Yaya's portrayal of Morpheus was his own. It was kind of someone said it was a mixture of Smith and Morpheus, but so it's not clearly him doing Lawrence Fishburne, which that's always good because that could be kind of great. Oh, also dude that played Smith, who just King George. I was partially expecting him to say, "Gee, wow," but I knew that wasn't gonna happen.
Wow.
Exactly. There we go. But he was all right, actually. He kind of invoked it without, without going too far into the Hugo Weaving. So, except for when he yelled out, "Mr. Anderson," I'm like, calm down, dude. Like, take that down a notch. We know you're in a coffee shop. Oh, I wasn't even in a coffee shop, but I was like, take that down, dude.
Right. So there's some interesting things that they employ in this movie to really ramp up the nostalgia. One of them being actual clips from the first Matrix movie.
Yes. And sets in a way.
I'm sorry?
And sets in a way. Because they kind of reused the couches and the mirror and that kind of stuff. And,
Definitely. But more so like literal like video clips from the first movie. And, we actually see Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus from 1998, 1999, circa those years when this movie was filmed. So,
and another character who shows up in here but I won't spoil that one.
Right. It's definitely a different effect. I know that it's not a new effect, but it's a different effect to see that being transposed over, the current day stuff, which shows the mileage that these characters and these actors have put on over the years. So
right.
It's definitely something to behold when you're seeing them literally being referenced on screen to the same character they played 20 plus years prior.
Right. Oh, it goes further than that, because not only did they do that, they basically used the fact that there was a lot of video game, not even imagery, but references, which also kind of surprised me, because there were two actual, well, there's I guess technically three with that last thing to do, but it's not whatever. But there were two Matrix video games, and as much video game stuff as they set up in this movie, I'm surprised there was not more going in that direction, or at least reference in that direction. Like, yeah, there were some definitely video game things that happened in the course of this movie, and without going into actual spoilers, but yeah, there was definitely some I guess life imitates art, but also video game, but also this and that and the other from the Matrix. In that was kind of like, okay, this is quite funny, but also the restraint they actually didn't take from going the path of Matrix, because there was the path of Neo game, and there was the MMO Matrix game for a while that I kind of wonder if they referenced it just a little bit, but they did not. But anyway, that being said, the one thing, I don't know if you noticed this or not, the dude that played Chad,
Oh, yeah, it's Chad Stahelski.
I didn't pick that up until later.
Oh, I saw him right away because he's the director of John Wick.
Correct.
Right?
And I didn't know he's been with the Matrix stuff since the beginning.
Yeah, he was a stunt director, right? So I assume, you know, like what it is that I've, you know, I'm a big aficionado of the John Wick series, and I've watched the director commentaries. So I've seen him. So I was like, oh, it's Chad Stahelski. I you know, I picked up on that right away. Obviously, I knew of the Matrix connection that he had. So it was nice to see him in front of the camera, you know, in at least a guest role, not a feature role, but a guest role.
Right. See, I didn't pick that up until I like rewatched the original trilogy and saw his name in the credits. I'm like, oh shit, okay, that dude. And I'd never seen him, so you know, up until after I watched this movie and saw that was him, you know, in the credits, because you know, oh, there's an after credit scene, but it was kind of dumb. Not dumb, but it was kind of silly.
Yeah, it's all very meta. It's all very meta. But yeah, no, it was nice to see Chad Stahelski. You know, I'm just like, so are you working on the next John Wick movie? Hurry up, let's go.
I know, right? Like you're doing it in between shots of this, because I mean, obviously he didn't have a big role, but you know, he was kind of there in a couple of spots. So anyway, but that's pretty much that. I'm actually thinking about watching it again before it goes off of HBO Max.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it again, you know, before it goes off. That's generally what I tend to do with these genre movies that are on HBO Max for that like initial run. Try to watch them a couple times, like with the Godzilla versus Kong. I think I watched that twice before it left. You know, but then once it came back, I watched it again just to see Godzilla stomp all over Kong.
Yes, as the big Godzilla fan that you are.
Exactly.
That being said, folks, we can move on to the books of the week. And I believe we said, oh, I did get the covers for this. Haha. We're going to start off with Timeless #1.
Alrighty, Timeless #1 is written by Jed MacKay with art by Kev Walker, Greg Land, and Jay Leaston, Mark Bagley, and Andrew Hennessy. Colors by Marte Gracia, and letters by VC's Ariana Mar. This issue is very much, it's not a one-shot, folks. This is, I believe, a 6-issue limited series.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Or is it a one-shot?
I think it's a one-shot.
Oh,
it's a one-shot.
I could have sworn this was a limited series, but
I'm wrong. No, I could have sworn it was.
I apologize because that changes my thoughts, because it definitely aligns even more with like that oh my gosh, I can't believe that the title of it just slipped my mind, but it's the book that introduced the Avengers 1 million BC concept.
I think that was Incoming. Maybe it was either Incoming or it was one of those free comic book day books. I can't remember.
No, there was a one-shot book that introduced all that stuff, and that's what this Timeless book resembles. Right. I did not realize that this was a one-shot, so I apologize, folks, because then my comparison is even more apt. And while Roddykat goes into his thoughts on the book, I will do some legwork on this.
I can save you the legwork because I can confirm that it's definitely a one-shot.
All right. No, but I'm trying to figure out what that other one that I was referring to.
Oh, okay. So as Agent 7 said, this is basically, and as we were talking before the show, this book sets up some upcoming timelines. Some upcoming stories from in the Marvel Universe that is coming next year. Some of this stuff we already knew because of recent solicitations come out, because you know there's some stuff that's going to start happening in March. So there's a couple of things that gets teased that we don't know about just yet, and I'm kind of slightly curious about. In fact, I do have an article. I'll put it in the show notes that explains pretty much all the stuff that gets referenced. Some of the stuff like we knew about because we've talked about in the show, like the new Iron Fist that's coming. I guess we knew some stuff going on with Ben Reilly, but we did not know where he was going to end up. So, and that's another thing. Fantastic Four: Reckoning War. We knew about that because they've been setting that up in in Fantastic Four, Judgment Day, which is the Eternals, Avengers, X-Men thing, which we had talked about in the last episode or two because we knew from the news and again stuff that was coming out. There was a thing with the Young Avengers that gets teased, and so I guess they're coming back. And there's a thing with Captain America, which I won't necessarily go into. That's apparently going to happen. So there's some things that get cleared up, and it's all under the guise of, hey, Kang ends up getting this writer scholar dude and takes him on a trip because he found out that this dude had written or will write a book about supervillains and basing it on Doctor Doom. So he's taking him with him for a week to kind of dissuade this writer scholar to not do that about Doom, because I guess, like as I say in my notes, I guess Kang's trying to get more PR for himself, or whatnot. And so through this travels, we found out about these various things that's come along, and that's basically the crux of it. While Kang's doing Kang stuff, and we get this whole thing from the scholar's point of view for the most part. Until the end, and we find out there's a couple of characters actually that are going to come back next year. That's, I guess, our choices. So I don't know what to say about that because neither one of those characters I'm particularly fond of or care that much about. But that's neither here nor there, and that's pretty much the gist of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm glad you were just wrapping it up when I figured out what I was looking for. That Marvel Legacy #1, it's the first appearance in flashback of the Avengers of 1 million BC. It had a wraparound cover, and it was essentially just like this issue where, we go through, we essentially get like this longer story, in the sense that it's more than 22 pages. We get this longer story that essentially lays out some of the highlights of the upcoming year in Marvel comic stories. So this isn't the first time we've seen something in this sort of style to give us a preview of what's coming up in the next year.
Right. Exactly. I feel like we've seen it a couple of different times.
Show Roddykat the cover, he'll recognize it and be like, oh yeah, this is definitely in that vein. Right. And this is going all the way back to 2017. So, gosh, it feels like it was yesterday, but this is November of 2017.
Yeah, like I said, this is not that. I mean, that was probably the first time we've seen this, but we have seen such a similar thing happen a couple of times since then.
Right. I just couldn't remember offhand, the titles of the books, but this is one that I remember distinctly. So.
Mm-hmm. So that's cool. But yeah, like I said, it's, I guess. I don't know if this matters per se, but I read that last Kang the Conqueror issue before I read this, and I guess it kind of ties, but not really.
Not really.
Yeah, like it's not like a continuation of that, but I do remember seeing at the end of it, I was like, hey, Kang will return in this thing, type of situation. So it doesn't necessarily tie. So that being said, you don't necessarily need to read that to read this. As I'm saying. I guess with that though, we can move on because there's not really much else to say.
One thing I would say is like the conceit of time travel and how that's going to, or at least the possible futures that they explore in terms of what is yet to come in the Marvel universe. In the upcoming publishing year. It's like we said, it's not new, but at least it gives us a chance to do in a story form what used to be like in the pages of Marvel Age, where they use a story to tell everyone, oh, well, this is a way for us to sell all these books and storylines to you, and put it in the form of a book that may that may contain a first appearance of somebody. You never know, and as opposed to a Marvel Age book. So, if you're too young to remember what Marvel Age is, it was just a monthly kind of glorified newsletter, but in the form of a comic book. And that's really what that's really what we were getting on a monthly basis. And now we're getting this kind of preview of a year's worth of Marvel stories in the form of a comic book story.
Right. Which kind of begs the question, like, maybe they should just, well, not sure. I don't know if there's enough to, especially with the way news is disseminated nowadays, whether that's a viable thing to bring back Marvel Age or not. But whether this is much better, who's to say? Like, I'm not saying it was a good read. It's not a bad read, but it was like, okay, yeah, sure, there you go. It teases things to come, and that was pretty much the gist of it.
Right. And what Roddykat talked to, we actually spoke just before the show went on. Basically, what we know of the things that Timeless teases have been revealed or heavily teased and heavily hinted at in the solicitations that go up to and through March of 2022. And since we've seen a lot of those already, we have a better grasp on many of those events that are teased in this Timeless issue. But anything that would occur later in time from March of 2022 is still, unbeknownst to us and up for interpretation in the pages of this Timeless book. So we'll see how that, we'll see what comes to pass over the next year.
Yep. Moving right along, though. Ooh.
And if you are looking for, because this was published yesterday, I don't know if you have this in the clickbait or in the news, the Timeless Every Marvel 2022 Event Witnessed by Kang the Conqueror Explained.
Yes, that is in the...
Is it in the news or in the clickbait?
It's in the clickbait section.
Right. Our very own Tim Dog 98 has a nice little write-up on that over at comicbook.com.
Yeah, so check that out in the show notes. So yeah, we'll move right along to... No, you pick. I think there's only a couple of them we got we got a couple in common that's worth notable.
Yeah, we've got a few in common. How about... do you want to take care of Amazing?
Sure.
We'll knock out Amazing Spider-Man number 83. This week's installment of the Beyond story arc is written by Patrick Gleason and also drawn by Patrick Gleason. Colors are by Maury Hollowell and Nathan Fairburn, and letters are by VC's Chris Eliopoulos. When was the last time you saw his name? So VC's Chris Eliopoulos and our favorite paisan, Joe Caramagna. So as I am wont to say, and I've said it early on during this Beyond story arc, we see that this Beyond book has maybe not exactly been divided in half in alternating stories or alternating issues of one issue Peter, one issue Ben, but we definitely see that they rotate who basically occupies the majority of the pages in the book. And in this case, this is a more Peter-centric book where we follow his recovery from this radiation poisoning and his subsequent issues with his powers, and specifically his spider sense kind of going crazy on him as a result of the radiation poisoning or radiation spike that he's received from the UFOs. And he essentially tries to gut out, like literally gut out, some of the pain that he has, and by gutting things out, essentially expels something from his body, or at least metaphorically speaking.
Right.
And it comes down to flashback between Peter and for Peter with good old Ben Parker, who basically reminds him that you know sometimes there are costs you have to pay in order to and levels of pain you have to deal with in order to get things done and to do the right thing.
Right. So basically, the gist of the story was like Peter was in pain. He didn't want to do physical therapy.
Yeah, without spoiling everything.
Yeah, but that's basically what it was. And then, everything else that Agent 70 just mentioned was kind of the weaving around it. But it was all pretty much so, to get him to do physical therapy.
No, but here's the thing. What Roddykat is glossing over, which is the part that I don't want to spoil, and I still won't spoil, is that there is a specific Spider-Man reason for Peter not being able to or not willing to go through physical therapy.
No, I'm not glossing over. I caught it. It was just that feeling like it was framed. It was framed as this. Like, yes, I get that's a thing, but it was just kind of framed once you take it all in as well. Okay, well, this is how you get from here into there, especially the way they set up in the beginning.
Right, but the overall point is that there is, as I said, a specific Spider-Man reason for it, and what it does come down to is him trying to get over that so that he can get his butt back into the physical therapy mode and go through his therapy sessions, and ultimately get on the road back to recovery. While we find out that old Ben Reilly is, off doing whatever he's doing, and his girl Janine is. What's Janine up to? I don't even know.
She was taking a dip, and then was just thinking about Ben, and thinking about being, her imprisonment and how it's not that much different from,
being inside, right?
Exactly.
Right. We do get a guest appearance by a certain Star-Spangled Avenger in this issue, and I think this character is going to play more of a role in Amazing Spider-Man going forward, at least based on solicitations and covers that we've seen in solicitations over the next several months.
There was one amusing part. Well, I won't spoil it, but there was one slightly amusing part between Cap and Spidey in their interaction. He was like, "Oh, sorry, kid. You usually, you usually duck."
Right.
So, but yeah, there's that. I think that's pretty much it for Amazing Spider. I think if there was this. Oh, the only thing I was going to say is there's an interesting parallel with Robin from this week in kind of a thing that happens, except for it comes up from a different place, but it's pretty much the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to that when we get to that. You got another one you want to do, or do you want to go to Rapid?
Yeah, no, we can go to Rapid because a lot of the stuff we have in common, so we'll end up covering it at the same time. So let's open that up.
I ain't got time to breathe.
Rapid fire, folks.
All right. First up is Death of Doctor Strange, number 4 of 5. It's written by Jed McKay, with art by Lee Garbett, colors by Antonio Fabella, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So the ongoing mystery of who murdered Doctor Strange takes a seeming twist here, because we find out, at least we think we find out for a fact, that good old Baron Mordo has been framed for the death of Doctor Strange, and he is at least to a certain point pretty innocent. So that definitely goes without saying against our expectations. Talk about subverting our expectations.
Yes and no, because if this had been done, like, say, a couple of years ago, you would almost expect to figure out who it was in a way. But let's just say there's shades of MCU. And also I almost expected them to go, well, you all did it, because that's kind of at a certain point, it was like, kind of felt like the way it was set up, but then it kind of went away from that.
Right. So speaking of the MCU, at least what's teased in this issue is that we have a little conclave of the remaining warlords, the magical realms in Antarctica, and Doctor Strange, Clea, and
Magic.
which is Doctor Strange, Clea, and no, Morta's there already.
No, I said
So
Magic. I thought
right. Yeah, that's the third person, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Magic of the X-Men, and they attend this conclave of these magical warlords, and ultimately, what is deduced by Doctor Strange at this meeting is that a character who heretofore had played a very minor role in the comic books, I guess, played a much larger role in the Doctor Strange MCU movie, and shows up here as a potential suspect. And we don't know for sure. We don't know if this has been finalized. There is one more issue in this miniseries. It's a 5-issue limited series, and at least that's my understanding.
There is
Yeah,
5 issues. Yes,
yeah. So there's one more issue left. So we will find out, in fact, who is the murderer, and we'll probably find out who. And we kind of know already because of solicitations who the next Sorcerer Supreme is. So, and it's not Wong in the comics.
Right. So, and I do remember them saying, I feel like I remember them saying that this was the book that they were going to say that in, or that they were going to mention that in. And they, if I'm read that right, I think they did without giving it away. Because it felt like a throwaway line, but at the same time, it's like, well, wait a minute. But I just happened to pick up on it. So I don't know if that's actually the way they're going to go with it or not. Because as far as I know, this character is not that already for where they usually reign, without going into anything. Anyway, that's that.
Yep. And let me move on to the next book. Devil's Reign #2 of 6. This is written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Marco Cacchetto, colors by Marcio Meniz, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So I've been talking to Roddykat about whether or not he should read this, and I've been telling him that he should, because it's one of the bigger event books in the Marvel universe at this point, and it's really not, at least in terms of execution, not as bad as it probably sounds, because it's essentially a rehash of elements of Civil War and elements of Dark Reign, but probably, at least in my eyes, ramped up a little bit to another level, because we have a different antagonist in the form of Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. And we saw what he was able to do with a little bit of information in Born Again. Right? He's essentially doing that, plus he's doing that with several characters, not just one Man Without Fear. He's also doing that with other characters, as well as acting the superhero registration type, which is where the comparisons to Civil War and Dark Reign come in. So the heroes are trying to come up with different ways of dealing with Fisk's level of power in civil government, and there's definitely some back and forth between the heroes who have gone to ground in this issue over what kind of tactics to use. So we'll see where that goes in the next issue. This is a 6-issue limited series, so we are 2 issues in. Next up is Robin #9. Roddykat did read this. It's written by Joshua Williamson with pencils by Roger Cruz. Man, Roger Cruz, I haven't heard that name in ages. You can definitely tell that he is still sort of adapting. He used to ape Joe Madureira, but now he's just sort of heavily influenced by him. It's inked by Norm Rapmund. Colors are by Luis Guerrero, and letters by ALW's Troy Peters. So the the gist of the point of the Lazarus Island comes to light, and um, things have gone distinctly south for Robin and for the plans of the tournament holders. But what we get here in this issue is an interesting, uh, set of a set of circumstances for the battles that go on when, as I said, things go a little south for everything that these characters had planned. Surprisingly, Damien is able to rally this disparate group of fighters who are essentially a bunch of loners by their own, by their own characterization and their own definitions, and he's able to kind of gather them up and to fight back um, against the forces of the tournament holders. Ultimately, a lot of this stuff is accomplished by Damien through flashback because he's basically hallucinating his way into a new level of clarity, and he's using an apparition of Alfred Pennyworth to do it.
Right.
The book ends in a really strange note, though, and I thought that is a weakness of the issue because it took me right out of what was happening. Right. I don't know how you felt about it, though.
It kind of felt like they're trying to extend this thing a little longer. But where they seem to be went at the end of this, I kind of had that sense.
Right, because I we had kind of reached a level of finality here at the end, but throw in some magic, as there is some level of magic to the whole Lazarus pit and Lazarus, the demon's head and all that stuff. So throw in this kind of wonky, and I really mean wonky, kind of a wonky twist ending to this issue. I don't know if it's real. That's obviously one thing that we have to question, whether or not what we think happened actually happened. But ultimately, this is probably the weakest part of the issue. I thought it was strong right up until this twist ending, or this minor twist ending, which kind of throws us into a different direction altogether.
Right. And like I said, it just basically felt like it was like, okay, yeah, so we just weirdly like a filler arc of an anime. It was just like, okay, we're gonna stop the action here, go to this other place, and then we'll send it back in a couple of issues or in a couple of episode issues, whatever the case may be. Who's to say?
All right. Last but not least for me is Detective Comics number 1046. It's written by Mariko Tamaki with art by Dan Mora. Colors are by Jordi Belair, and letters are by Aditya Bidikar. So we have officially we finally caught up to the point where Batman is getting ready to leave Gotham City, because this has been teased in lots of the Bat books. We've seen in solicitations that Batman is going to be essentially taking a working sabbatical over in Europe while leaving Gotham to the Bat family. And we get more insight into the circumstances of his departure, as well as how some of his erstwhile Bat family reacts to the rumor at this point of what Batman is thinking of doing. So that is Detective Comics 1046.
All right, and that sounds like that does it for you.
Yep, that is it for me.
All right, so for me, got Aquaman, Green Arrow, Deep Target number 3 of, I believe this is of 6. Oh wait, I think did I have that? No, I do not. Regardless, written by Brandon Thomas, art by Ronan Cliché, or I'm just gonna say it's Cliché. Colors by Ulysses Areola, letters by Josh Reed. So basically, if you did not know, this is the teaming up of Aquaman and Green Arrow, but there's also a little bit of Freaky Friday / The Fly going on in here, in a way, without giving too much away. But this was pretty much the deep exposition issue of this miniseries, because we start to get, we get the definitely the villainous explanation of things, and we get to see how our heroes come into play and start to get into the position that they've been put in that they have switched bodies and essentially histories in a way, some kind of way. But it's kind of interesting in that, I guess. But it gets to a point, and then it ends, and it will continue next issue for certain. Let's see. Next book for me is Superman 78, which is number 5 of 6 issues. And if you're not aware of this, as the name should definitely imply to you, yes, this is set in the world of the original Superman movie, the first Christopher Reeves movie. Except for sometime after that. In fact, just like the Batman 89 book, I believe this is this is probably a little closer in timeline than where that Batman book ends up going at this point. But it basically introduces the world of Superman 78 to Brainiac. And at the end of, in last issue, that Superman had been bottled up with the rest of the city of Kandor in Brainiac's ship, and left Earth. But thanks to Lex Luthor and Jor-El, Superman's dad, there's a plan hatched to at the very least get Superman to escape, and that's pretty much what happens here. And there's a fight there's basically round 3 between Superman and Brainiac in this issue. Which also kind of was like, well, wait, I don't recall. There were certain aspects of this was like, I don't recall, especially based on his parents in Kandor and them two tying together, which didn't seem like was the case, but we're just going to overlook that. We are spared a Brando speech, so that's a good thing. If you've seen Superman 78, you know what I'm talking about. Let's see. Next book is Teen Titans Academy number 10. So Teen Titans Academy has been going headlong into the events of Future State, which is pretty much after the school, the Roy Harper school met a disastrous end. We didn't necessarily get to see what happened then, but we are starting to see what is leading up to that, and in fact has something to do with a couple of the students, Shazam, and what's been going on in the recent Shazam book, which I guess is before Future State, because there is definitely a reference to that, but it's basically starting to go along into heading us into more directly into the events of what happened in Future State, a couple of Future State books, including the Teen Titans Academy one. And that, folks, actually, while I pull up the oh, I did already. Okay, that is it for me. So, clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week, people.
So I'm not sure if this one. I got a note. We got a note from one of our erstwhile hosts who is not here. I'm going to assume that this is a click, or I can't assume that because you just asked a question. But I'm just gonna. You know what? I'm gonna give him 2 actually, because I just thought about one. So Dirt mentions Star Wars Bounty Hunters from this week. He basically says that he thought it was a good action piece, and liking Valance, which is the main character, who's a cyborg in the Star Wars universe, more and more. And though the rest of the team can pound sand, which from what I know about this book, and that because I have been kind of off and on reading it, yeah, I kind of agree with that assessment. Because Valance is not necessarily, he's a bounty hunter, so he's not necessarily good, not necessarily bad. He's like Boba Fett. He's kind of do what he does for reasons. He's got his own code or whatnot. So there is that. And I haven't had a chance to read this particular issue yet. But yeah, like, and I'm still kind of, because a lot of that War of the Bounty Hunters and stuff, I'm still trying to get my way through, even though I've been reading Star Wars past that. So that's that. But so I'm going to assume that's his click, but I'm also going to I need to actually ask him about it if he's seen this. Championship Wrestling League #1. Did you see that in the books?
No.
Yeah. So apparently, from what I saw on Comixology, it's like I mean, it is what it is. It's a wrestling book. But it seemed like something like, fans of wrestling might be interested in. I don't know. I have not read it, and I am not the target audience of that. I'm gonna see if I can find the thing real quick to talk about it while you get your click together.
I think I've got my click, so
Okay,
I'll just talk over. I'll just discuss mine while you're doing this particular legwork. I was kind of in between here. Don't have too much to pick from this week, but I think that I'm going to go with Devil's Reign #2. I just think that it's a variation of a theme that we've seen before, aka Civil War and Dark Reign, but it's just a little bit different because of the Kingpin's. The Kingpin is the one behind it. He's the one perpetrating it. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more sinister in that streetwise way. So I'll go with Devil's Reign #2.
Okay, gotcha. So let me read this from Comixology real quick about Championship Wrestling League #1. Rags to Stitches #1. Championship Wrestling League is the same pro wrestling action you see on your TV screen, but now slammed into your comic book pages. It says, in this issue, Jacob Holcomb versus Don Ron, which I don't believe are actual real characters. Special appearance by CWL champion Terrence King, and then there's a main event of 2 other people who, again, don't believe are actual real folks. But this is coming from Cult Comics. It's written by Mike Spear Jr., art by Mac Radowski. So I don't know if you're a wrestling fan. It looks like this is a Comixology submit thing, so I guess this is one of those. But I believe we do have an actual copy in. Actually, I'm not sure. We do. But I saw this out there, and I was like, you know what? We have a couple of wrestling fans on the panel who are not here. Neither one of which are here, but so they might be interested in this if they haven't seen this. For myself, I think I am going to go with. Actually, I think I'm gonna go with Robin #9. Like I've been enjoying that book a good bit. Like, it's been pretty fun, and it's the definite whole Mortal Kombat tournament thing, which is clearly taking notes from. Has been pretty fun, and even up to into this one rallying of Damien's rallying of these fighters against his basically his family again.
Right. I thought it was a strong issue, but for the ending, that
Right.
ending really threw me. So
Right.
could just be just another deception, and we'll find out that no one's gone anywhere in the next issue. But you never know.
Yeah. No, I think it's just a filler episode. I think it's just filler so they can stretch this out a little bit more. That's my take on it. It may not be the case, but it just, you don't do something like that without without just kind of like, yeah, I see what you're doing. Like, you're trying to stretch this arc out a little bit more. So could be wrong, but I doubt it. All right, folks, and that is that, because we didn't get anything from Tim. So we are going to move on to the news, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your free order. Your first order, that is. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And we start off with the cinematic news as we do every week about this time. Probably could let that go, but whatever. First up, first Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness teaser ties into What If, apparently. And I can, having seen this teaser trailer, I can see that. There's also apparently spoilers in here in this article for Spider-Man No Way Home, so I'm not going to go too much farther than that. Next up.
The MCU is fast becoming the Wong cinematic universe, jokes Kevin Feige. So, in a red carpet interview with Marvel.com for Spider-Man No Way Home, Wong was asked about his many recent appearances and how his character was handling all the pressure. I'm okay, Benedict Wong said, with aplomb. I got an email from Kevin Feige saying it's fast becoming the WCU, as in the Wong cinematic universe. It's really just Wong being in lots of places in the MCU, and we're all here for it.
Exactly. Next up, Shang-Chi's Simu Liu addresses Doctor Strange 2 rumors. Oops. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. MCU fans believe the upcoming Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness will include a number of superhero appearances, including the eponymous hero of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which, you know, I can see how that happens given the end of Shang-Chi, who made his debut earlier this year. While answering questions on GQ's Actually Me, Simu responded to rumors that he will appear in the sequel. Quote, even if I were in that movie, which I'm not, there is no way in hell that I would say it out loud, aka Marvel Snipers, hashtag. That's all I could say. That's all I can really say, right? So, the expected answer given someone who wants to keep his job.
That's right. He's still new, and he's not one of these. He's not like Alfred Molina, who's been in Hollywood forever and doesn't really care about getting kicked out of the MCU. So
right, or Tom Holland, who pretty much got by because he's young or something, and the fact that, you know, well, I'm sure there are other factors outside of, like, all right, we know you're doing stuff for, and Mark Ruffalo, who has also spilled the beans on a couple of occasions.
Exactly. You know, Simu Liu is doing a good job of not needing a handler, because apparently during No Way Home press, they sent out Benedict Cumberbatch with Tom Holland, and anytime Holland would start to maybe broach a topic, Cumberbatch, being the older and wiser actor between the two, would interject and stop Holland from spilling the beans.
Nice. So being the mentor figure in real life, I guess.
Right. At least in that regard.
Indeed.
So next up, Spider-Man No Way Home exclusive Blu-ray features Doctor Strange inspired fan art. Target revealed an exclusive Spider-Man No Way Home Blu-ray release featuring fan art inspired by Doctor Strange's magic. Okay.
It's actually a cool looking cover. I'm not mad at it. I don't think I've seen the regular cover, but yeah, sure. If you're watching the video version, you can see said cover with other stuff emblazoned on it. So there you go.
Right, you can pre-order this DVD, yes, this Blu-ray now. That's the kicker. It doesn't have a release date, but you can pre-order it for $27.99 on Target, on the Target website.
Yeah, and if you like collectible cards, you like myself, you'll probably end up doing this mess. They probably got you. Speaking of No Way Home, it has officially earned over $1 billion in global box office. And I believe it has beat out a couple of things. Thank you. Beat out a couple of things since then. It says here that over the Christmas weekend, it earned $81.5 million domestically and $121.4 million internationally. So thank you for all you. No, I'm not gonna do that. We know COVID is still a thing, and you assholes are still out there. We know some folks that did it for justifiably good reasons, but hey. We need COVID numbers to go down, folks. More than you need this movie.
Because, you know, what the records that this movie is setting and breaking are not pandemic era records. They're actually records, like records that existed before the pandemic, and
True.
it's a little troubling. I'm knocking on wood anytime I can, so that we don't hear news that a particular screening of No Way Home was a super spreader event, or people were sent en masse from the theater to the hospital because of a particularly bad COVID case spreading itself during a showing of No Way Home. So,
a particular showing, yes.
What's that?
I said a particular showing in specifically.
Right. So ultimately, what we're kind of all amazed at is, this movie is able to have that kind of power over all of our wallets, despite the obviously the level of pandemic isn't the same as it was a year ago at this time,
right?
But it's still not great. And to see this movie rack in that kind of money, there've been a lot of think pieces and a lot of thoughts being offered about the state of movies and about the state of movie-paying cinema goers. Now that No Way Home has come out in the midst of the pandemic and smashed all these records, so we'll leave it for them for these people to continue discussing. But it is a pretty amazing thing, no pun intended, that that this movie could get that much attention and that much business, repeat or otherwise, during the pandemic.
Right. I guess the positive side of this, imagine the numbers it would have done. We probably would have done just the same, honestly. But imagine what the numbers would have been had it not been pandemic. So, but on the plus side, not good. Anyway, moving along. Spider-Man's Marissa Tomei wanted Aunt May to have a girlfriend. So in a interview with Geeks of Color, Tomei was asked about Aunt May's relationship with Happy Hogan, which I wasn't too crazy about either, because there's nothing there. Anyway, after praising Favreau's work, Tomei mentioned that Aunt May's relationship with Happy wasn't originally what she'd hoped for the character, quote unquote. At one point, this was before even the idea of Happy showed up. There was a moment where I felt that it maybe should have been with a woman, Tomei explained. Because Ben is gone, and who should she be with? And we're all kind of talking about it. And so I really wanted Amy Pascal from Sony to be my girlfriend. I was like, no one even has to know Amy. I'll just be in a screen and you'll be over there, and I'll just be like, hey, it's just a subtle thing. So, which actually, now that I think about it, they kind of set up a similar thing with Matrix Resurrections, but we're going to go into that. With a character. Next up,
Eternals director reveals the, quote, bleak alternate ending that audiences hated. Eternals director Chloe Zhao explains why her original ending for the film was just far too depressing for the MCU. Eternals is set to arrive on Disney Plus soon, and Zhao spoke to Empire about crafting the Marvel film, which has, to this point, proven divisive. Critics apparently took the film to task, and at least according to this article, lambasted the film. I don't know about that, but audiences tended to respond positively. Maybe not all audiences, but it still gave Marvel Studios another box office hit. What is clear, though, is the movie is unlike any superhero film to date, and what ended up on the screen changed considerably along the way. So apparently, in short, Zhao had a very bleak ending, and it was just melancholy, which is what she's more used to than, feeling something, than having a hope-filled ending. But apparently it didn't go down well with audiences, so they had to redo the ending and add some more hopeful notes to it, and that's what we ended up getting on screen.
Although we might be seeing whatever that scene, if they actually shot it, in the next story, because Marvel's Eternals deleted scenes revealed ahead of home release. Descriptions ahead of home release. I'm not going to go into them, but according to Collider, there'll be 4 deleted scenes featured with the release of the film. And this article kind of goes through what those are. And let's see. It says here, yeah, we know that it's going to be on. The Eternals is going to be on Disney Plus January 12th, 2022. But the DVD Blu-ray release is going to be on February 15th of next year. And anecdotally, I would just say that I feel like anecdotally, people were more positive about Eternals than negative. From what I've seen.
I think so too, but I definitely think there were some negative audience reactions as well. So.
Oh, totally. I mean, yeah, I've seen a couple of them, but like I said, for the most part that I've seen, you know, in my purview, it was more positive than not. So it is what it is. Next up, though.
Is you?
No, because I did the latest one.
The descriptions. Yeah. I'm sorry, this is like a two-part thing.
Yeah.
All right, Kingpin actor Vincent D'Onofrio reveals how the blip affected his criminal empire. Okay, let me pull open this article here. So apparently, according to D'Onofrio, Wilson Fisk survived the blip but lost some of his control over the city in the process. And now he's simply just trying to get it back. According to D'Onofrio, trust me, in Hawkeye, I'm playing the character as if the character from DD, survivor of the blip, is now set on getting back his city. The blip weakened his crown, his authority over his kingdom. Now he wants it back. He's in damage control mode. That's all, Mary Mary. This is D'Onofrio on Twitter, apparently.
Right. So,
and he elaborated on the point while speaking with the Hollywood Reporter after the Hawkeye finale.
Mm-hmm. So, in a way, I can kind of see this, but at the same time, given what happened in Falcon and Winter Soldier and the potential, who the broker, whoever was, ended up may or may not have ended up being that. It's like, I can see it, but also not really. Unless he's saying he was blipped and that what did it, because he's not necessarily saying that. And none of this is canon. I mean, none of this is known. This is just his thoughts on it. So we don't know one way or the other what happened to him in the blip. Maybe we'll find out at some point. We don't know. AEW's Thunder Rosa. Okay, please stop. Reveals awesome Marvel Wolverine gear on Dynamite. So yeah, this is for the wrestling fans. Don't you know. Apparently, there is a New Year's Smash edition of AEW Dynamite, which features the semifinals of the TBS Women's, and I don't think that's Turner Broadcasting System. I don't know. Women's Championship Tournament. It goes who's in the match, which is this Thunder Rosa person and Jade Cargill. But regardless of all of that, and I saw this on Twitter. This is basically kind of why I pulled it. Was this Thunder Rosa character in a Laura Kinney Wolverine outfit that apparently she's going to wear or has worn to this thing. I don't know when this thing is, but that I saw last night as of this recording. So it's a not bad looking fit, I guess. You know, I mean the face paint on the side is probably not necessarily indicative, but hey, the rest of the fits at least invokes it, and she's even got the two claws like Laura would have. So next up in video game news, new Uncharted trailer reveals the treasure Holland and Wahlberg are searching for. The upcoming Uncharted film drops a new trailer revealing the treasure that Nathan Drake and Sully, their respective characters, are searching for. And it's an epic tale featuring pirate ships, buried treasure, ancient locations, and much, much more. I'm just scrolling through this, trying to figure out what of important to tell you folks. I mean, there's nothing else to really say. There's some stuff that we saw from. I've watched this. There's some stuff that was seen in previous trailers, and as a couple of other things, including Mark Wahlberg, in the with Sully's mustache. So if you're a fan of the video games, that definitely means something to you. I mean, like I said, this movie still looks all right. I will definitely watch it at some point, depending on where it lands initially. So, next up though, Warner Media CEO reconfirms early streaming date for The Batman. Um, so let's see. According to speaking to Vox's Recode podcast, Jason Kilar reconfirmed that the Batman will be made available for streaming 46 days after it hits theaters, April 19th, 2022. He acknowledges that this is a massive departure for the traditional release strategies of the years past, aka this past year. Think about when movies would show up on HBO, which is 8 to 9 months after theatrical premiere, which I and H70 can attest to because we lived through those days. Sometimes even longer than that.
Way.
Mm-hmm. So the like I said, the Batman is going to show up on HBO Max 46 days after theater release, which we talked about probably about a month or two ago, that they had gone back on their previous strategy of putting stuff out day and date on in theaters, which means basically that I think the Matrix Resurrections is the last one of those that happened that way. So anyway, that's that. Next.
The newest The Batman trailer has been released, and it shows more Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne / Batman, Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle / Catwoman, and Paul Dano's Edward Nashton / The Riddler. The trailer, which is titled The Bat and the Cat, gives a closer look at the Riddler's plan for the Dark Knight and all of Gotham. Yeah, just go watch it.
Yeah, it was actually all right. I saw it. I watched it. There's a little bit more between their characters. I don't know if the chemistry is there, but sure. We'll find out until the movie show comes out. Naomi series premiere synopsis teases the DC hero's origin. So there's basically a synopsis on CW's Naomi show that is forthcoming. I will not read from the said synopsis, but it is out there, and if you want to check it out in the show notes, you can do so. But it definitely will premiere on Tuesday, January 11th, 2022, which is not far away, folks. I'm actually slightly looking forward to seeing this. I need to still read the that initial miniseries on her. I think Tim said he did already, or Will. I can't remember, but regardless, yeah. But we may or may not be talking about the show when it appears, depending on interest level. Next up,
Sony Pictures announced that it has added a digital version of Paul Feig's 2016 Ghostbusters reboot to the upcoming Ghostbusters Ultimate Collection 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray set, after the director publicly called out the company for originally excluding the film. A digital version of the 2016 reboot, also known as Ghostbusters Answer the Call, is now being offered alongside digital versions of 1985's Ghostbusters, 89's Ghostbusters 2, and 2021's Ghostbusters Afterlife as part of the new box set. Alrighty.
Yeah. Have you seen this yet? Afterlife?
I have.
Did you like it?
It was okay. It was okay. Let's just say I didn't go through normal channels.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know how my interest in. I still hadn't seen the 2016 one either, so I can't really say. But yeah, I'll watch them, I guess. Last but not least, in the cinematic news, Dwayne Johnson turns down Vin Diesel's invitation to rejoin Fast and Furious and says, "No chance I'll return." Wait, that's the wrong voice. Sorry. No chance I'll return. So I guess it's not about family. Dwayne Johnson has publicly declined, like I said. In November, Diesel extended an invitation. We talked about it on the show to Johnson on Instagram, imploring Johnson to reprise his role in the series. But in a new interview with CNN, The Rock responded to the request, criticizing Diesel for voicing an invite on social media, which, yeah, I agree with that, after the two had already reached an agreement in private. Because, yeah, there is something about people doing things in public that they don't do in private that irks the fuck out of me. Like, you show you're behind in public, you should apologize in public. And if you, and if you've already been talking about some stuff in private, you should kind of keep it in private instead of, going on social media and telling people and kind of getting people behind you when you know you got the people to do that. But anyway, that is me editorializing. So, according to this, I told Diesel directly that I would not be returning to the franchise. I was firm yet cordial with my words and said that I would always be supportive of the cast and always root for the franchise to be successful, but that there is no chance that I would return, Johnson explained. Finn's recent public post was an example of his manipulation. I didn't like that he brought up his children in the post as well as Paul Walker's death. Leave them out of it. We had spoken months ago about this and came to a clear understanding. So, and it kind of goes on from there about his feelings about the franchise and such and such as. So, I don't know. How you feel about this?
You know, it's there's no side to take because
basically,
you know, we all laughed at what Vin Diesel posted, which is just silly. You know, calling Dwayne Johnson his little brother. I'm just like, okay, that's not gonna turn out well. But ultimately, you know, I've gotten a little fed up with Dwayne Johnson's public persona lately, especially in the lead up to his promotion of Black Adam.
mm-hmm.
Because if you thought he was insufferable before Black Adam, now that he's got his own superhero vehicle, it's getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know, like I find it hard to take sides, but at the same time, I'm like, wait a second. Yes, we all agree that Dwayne Johnson brought a nice breath of fresh air to Fast Five, but let's be clear that Fast Five movie, the story itself is actually what reinvigorated the franchise.
Right.
It wasn't just, you know, he played a part in reinvigorating the franchise, but it turned into a heist movie that did one of the craziest stunts you would ever see. You know, even though a lot of it was special effects, just the concept of it was insane.
Right.
Or dragging a vault through the streets of a major metropolitan city.
You mean Brazil? Wait, I don't remember if that was actually Brazil or not. But
I was about to say they filmed some of it in Rio, but I think most of the major damaged streets were staged in Puerto Rico.
Sure, but it was supposed to be
exactly right. In Brazil.
Yeah. I didn't actually. Well, just quick note, like I wasn't really crazy about it, and I agree with you about it was more of the story than the character. Like, okay, they just added somebody else to it, and I wasn't really too crazy about his character. I felt like his character was a little too overblown. They kind of toned him down since then, but he was still kind of slightly annoying, I guess. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, and that's what he's supposed to be. But like, you know, but I'm glad Roddykat sees it in a similar fashion, in that, you know, it was more the shift towards the family dynamic, turning them into a group of X, you know, of operatives. You know, in this case, they became a group of thieves.
Right.
You know, like, you know, super duper thieves that knew how to, you know, that all knew how to drive.
Right.
So,
and then turn into super spies that still knew how to drive and steal.
Exactly. So, you know, ultimately, that's really what turned the franchise around. But, you know, Dwayne Johnson seems to think it was all him. And now he's just like, you know what, I'm out. So
yeah, he got what he wanted of it, basically. So, which, yeah. So, anyway, that's that. We are going to turn our attentions over to the comic book news. And by the way, before we get into the comic books, can we talk about? I'm gonna give you the close up like really quick. Can we talk about this dope ass shirt that H70's rocking, the Spider-Man shirt?
What, the Miles shirt is old? Yes.
And yeah, it's still a good shirt though. Love that shirt. Anywho, Marvel teased, huh?
I was about to say, I think this is a Midtown Comics exclusive.
Gotcha. Nice. Marvel teases an Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals war exploding in 2022. This is basically kind of alluding to stuff we've already talked. Well, this is definitely alluding to stuff we've already talked about, including earlier with Timeless. So the X-Men, Avengers, and the Turtles will collide in 2022. Marvel Comics has released a teaser image featuring the logos of all three teams, and the text "Judgment Day is coming," hinting that these franchises will clash in summer 2022. So yeah, we already, again, like I said, a lot of the stuff we kind of had already talked about in passing, but this is pretty much their official teasing of it, um, as it were. So
Next up, so this story involves spoilers from the Timeless book that came out this week. Marvel's Timeless Tease is a surprising new addition to the Marvel Universe, which in essence doesn't come from the Marvel Universe, but comes from outside the Marvel Universe itself. It comes from a character whose rights were acquired by Marvel in the last decade.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, that is true. And I feel like they've done something with the character a while ago, but I don't remember. I don't too much like. Do we need another one of these characters in the universe? Probably not. But we'll see what they do with them. Um, without giving it away at this point, even though this article, the tagline in this article kind of mentions something like that. Anyway, Marvel promises the death of a Fantastic Four member at their teammate's hand. Let's see. So yeah, and this is also something we've kind of talked about because we've talked about Fantastic Four and what they're setting up with Reckoning War, and I think this is kind of along with that. So the cover and solicitation for Fantastic Four number 42 promises a battle to the death between the Thing and Mr. Fantastic, with the issue titled Brother Against Brother. So we already know their history with each other, and we have talked about, I can't remember which issue that it was that Slott had put out, like it was earlier this year, that kind of sets this up. But it is coming, and I'm still kind of curious as to what's going to happen there. And it doesn't sound like it's the one you'd think it is going to die, but I guess we'll see. I don't know. If you're watching the video version, you see in the cover, which of course, as covers tend to do, don't always go the way it looks.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, next up,
a Reckoning War trailer for the Fantastic Four story has been released by Marvel. Marvel released a trailer for Fantastic Four Reckoning War, or the greatest war to ever rage across the multiverse. This new Marvel Comics event coming in 2022 is teased in this trailer. I'm looking to see release date. Yeah, it's going to be released on February 2nd. So take a look at this trailer and see if this does not pique your interest.
I feel like can't remember if we talked about this when some of the stuff started kind of leaking out in the pages of Fantastic Four, but I feel like, and obviously it's Dan Slott writing this, so I feel like Dan's kind of going back to the well for another set of characters as opposed to his more famous one, or before now more famous one. So not to say it's a bad thing, but it's just like, I don't know, I feel like there's probably going to be some of that being said in this particular. We don't know. Like I said, there's some stuff about this we don't know, and it's definitely not going to be the exact same thing. But the fact that there's a multiversal world war going on, you can imply some things.
No, I mean, I get that. But what I was also going to add, though, is Slott, in I think some interviews and some press pieces, talked about how this is a story that he essentially came up with as an 8-year-old, and finally has had a chance to see it come to fruition. And it literally is based in Marvel lore.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, they're probably more esoteric and kind of one-off characters that he's using. But at the end of the day, they're in the canon. They're rooted in the Marvel universe. So I'm curious to see where he's grabbing these characters, because with the tool of Marvel Unlimited at hand, once you find out who it is, you can actually go back to that issue and take a look. Hopefully, it's in Marvel Unlimited and see what it is Slott is drawn from.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure by the time this thing's dropped, it should be. I would assume that would be a very bad oversight if it wasn't. So yeah, but like I said, I trust Slott enough to, like I said, despite what I just said, I trust him enough to. I feel like it's probably going to be pretty good, regardless of what happens. But we'll see when we get there. Dead MCU villains are alive and evil in Marvel's massive Daredevil storyline. This is basically talking about Devil's Reign. We kind of talked about that earlier, so we don't necessarily have to go into that. Plus, I haven't read it. Next up,
Marvel fans remember Stan Lee on what would have been his 99th birthday. This would have been December 28th. And if you were on social media or on the web on the 28th, you definitely saw people, comic book fans and professionals and whatnot alike, posting their tributes to Stan Lee on December 28th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what made me put this in here, because I was like, oh, right. His birthday was on the 28th. Also in some sad news, actually, well, I guess some similarly sad news, but have nothing to do with comic books. John Madden died. So, I'm condolences to his friends and family there, which is weird because I just saw the documentary they did on him on Fox Sports, and yeah, I'm not a sports person. This has been well established on the show, but you don't have to be a football fan or sports fan to know who John Madden is at this point, especially if you're into video games.
What I was going to say is there are entire generations, plural,
exactly,
that do not know that John Madden was a football coach.
Mm-hmm.
There are generations, plural, that don't even know that John Madden was a television football commentator.
That's true, I guess, yeah.
All you know is the name behind the football game.
Yes. And which is still being played.
And it's still being played. It's still basically the primary football game, the primary professional football game, video game that is, for all players. So, Madden's legacy, continues and will continue to spread for quite a while still.
Right, and that's because they shut out all competition for said football video games. Not having to do with the fact that it's any good. It's just that's the only one because licensing.
Shout out at ESPN NFL 2K5, 2K15.
Oh man, you're right. 05, yeah. Man, that was such a great one too. And $20. Anyway, we didn't talk about it. That's another show for another time.
Hey, I played that. I had it.
Yeah, I still got it. Yeah, that joke, like I said, that was probably the last one I actually ever played because I was like, fuck Madden after that. But anywho, Stan Lee, you love him, you miss him. And more sad news, probably lesser known news. Artist Ryan Bodenheim dies at 44.
Just sad because of his age.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly, dies at 44. So Ryan Bodenheim has died in 44. He was a he frequently collaborated with Jonathan Hickman on creator-owned titles at Image Comics, such as A Red Mask for Mars, The Dying and the Dead, and Secret. He's also known for his Valiant Comics work on titles such as Bloodshot, Ninjak, or some would say Ninja K, 4001 AD, and in Eternal Warrior. His Marvel Comics works include contributions to Black Panther. Recently, Marvel announced Bodenheim as the artist for the upcoming Eternals one-shot, Eternals The Undying #1, which I believe is out already. Yeah, wasn't that the last one that come out? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, regardless. So whether it's out or not, it's there. Working with Kieran Gillen. Bodenheim is survived by his mother, Susan Avery, children Jack and Lily, and his brothers David and Jonathan. So the family is asking for charitable donations instead of flowers to the Hero Initiative or a cause of the donor's choosing. And then below, the rest is the obituary in this article, which you can read for yourself. I don't believe it probably says what he maybe not. But anyway, you can read it for yourself. Next up,
Comixology is running a deep discount on Marvel Masterworks with the Marvel Masterworks sale. There are 285 items on sale now, with first volumes just 99 cents and the other volumes at $1.99. You can save up to 94% on the collections. This is a great opportunity to read some classic Marvel comics. The sale ends this Monday, January 3rd, 2022. So get on this if you're trying to get on it. Hopefully you catch this live because by the time our episode comes out, it might be too late for you.
Probably. The way things have been going lately. The Access Guide to the Black Comics Community returns to spotlight increased industry diversity. The second volume of the Access Guide to the Black Comics Community is now in the process of getting crowdfunded on Kickstarter. The campaign aims to update the project with new creators, stores. I guess that's stores. I don't know. And projects that are quickly springing up as the Black community continues to carve out a unique spot within the comics industry. I would go ahead and add it's not necessarily a unique spot, just the one that should be more common. Heavy metal editor Joe Illich, George Carmona III, and the owner of Anyone Comics store in Brooklyn, all return for the second book. So, don't know when this is coming out, but you can go check out the in the link in the show notes. Which this is my first time hearing about this book, so I may have to check that out, or at least if it's still available. Next up, though,
7 free DC comics to get you in the holiday spirit. All you need to do is create an account at DC Universe Infinite, and you don't need to provide any payment details. The holiday issues available to you for free on DC Universe Infinite are Batman Noel, DC Rebirth Holiday Special, DC's Very Merry Christmas, Multiverse, DC Nuclear Winter Special, Swamp Thing Winter Special, Green Lantern Larfleeze Christmas Special, and Harley Quinn Holiday Special. Okay.
So yeah, check that out at your leisure. A major Superman threat is forming their own League of Doom. Excuse me, not Justice League. I want to say this might be according to this cover, the spoilers for this week's book, but it doesn't necessarily say it here. Justice League is heading for a rematch against the supervillain Leviathan, and the criminal mastermind is quickly recruiting a team of familiar foes to help him even the odds against the DC Universe's mightiest heroes. After the former Manhunter Mark Shaw first broke bad during Brian Michael Bendis' Superman run and created the Leviathan superhero persona, he's back to minister in Untitled Justice League in Bendis' final Justice League story arc. Leviathan has helped the Royal Flush Gang become a much more ambitious group of supervillains, which that's from this week's book, now that I'm thinking about it, with the team stealing the entire Fortress of Solitude rather than sticking with their usual set of smash and grab heists. Oh no. Yes, and this is a preview for Justice League 70, which is out this week. So, next up, last but not least, DC's Human Target has a new problem, a jealous Green Lantern. Tom King and Greg Smallwood's DC Black Label Maxi series, Human Target has already put its protagonist, Christopher Chance, through the ringer, and Chance's growing list of enemies goes cosmic in the upcoming 3rd issue. Chance's latest assignment involved him standing in for Lex Luthor, and blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for the Green Lantern part. All right. So apparently in Human Target number 3, Christopher Chance is a man on a deadline and working to solve a crime that might be unsolvable. Despite his better judgment, he's falling for his lead suspect, and her violent ex-boyfriend isn't happy about it. Oh, and that ex, he's a Green Lantern. Huh. Yeah, and it's the one you would expect it to be.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wanted to have a little bit of suspense, but if you scroll through the preview, you see exactly who it is.
Mm-hmm. Which I didn't even have to go that far because I was like, yeah, we know who this is. You know who this is, folks.
I had a feeling that's who it was, but
yeah,
I wanted to maintain some of the suspense.
Yeah. Have you read any of this book?
I think I read the first issue. It was all right, but I think I couldn't get over the fact that it was just like a regular dude putting himself in danger all the time.
Right. Hey, you don't have to have a cape to be a hero. Hawkeye told us that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, folks, that is the end of the news section. We got one last ad read for you.
Last ad read of the night, and because I am exhausted, literally falling asleep at the controls, you know what we're going to read. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. That's at cspn.us. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, Marvel Legends, or late Christmas presents. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment. It helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
I did that to myself. Whoop. All right, folks, we are at the end of this here Comic Book Chronicles, the last one of the year. We are recording this on 12:30, and we got one more day to go of this particular year. Weirdly coming under the wire. That's kind of funny for us.
Do you have any comic book based either resolutions and or New Year's intentions?
You know what? I actually haven't thought. Well, I actually have thought about it, but I haven't put that much thought into it. And I feel like that's probably something we will definitely get to on the year-end show. But for now, it's probably one of the same ones I still had, and it's like kind of branch out into stuff that I don't normally gravitate towards. Like there's a lot in comics media, and there's a lot that we miss out on because not necessarily we're focused on the big two, but we get a lot more of the big two books more often than not. And
Right.
we have done a better job of kind of highlighting some stuff that are not from the big two, because we definitely have, but I want to continue to do that for the most part.
Right. And I definitely followed up on one of mine, which is to get more familiar with anime and manga stuff. So that is something I definitely did follow up on, and obviously it definitely benefited. I definitely took advantage of the extra time that some of pandemic living gave me to get into that, and really just kind of sat down and binged like a madman some of these anime series and got caught up. So I definitely followed through on that, and I think that's what I'm going to try to continue to do, and maybe diversify my portfolio of anime and manga, because obviously I definitely tend towards the things that appeal to me as an American comic book superhero comic book fan, and there are genres of manga and anime, just as there are different genres of comic books in America that deserve their own spotlight and deserve a little bit more attention from myself as a reader and as a critic, as it were. So, in that regard, I'm in the same. I'm of the same mind as Roddykat with his main resolution and or New Year's intention.
Yeah, I've been very happy with Age of 70 going through this journey of his with the anime. And like, granted, I also probably could use more going down the manga line, but I've definitely I've been a anime fan for years. So so some of the stuff that he's just getting to, some of the stuff that's kind of, with the exception because he actually gotten ahead of me in a couple of more recent popular things. But yeah, I have been enjoying his journey through anime. quite lovely.
Yeah, what I would say is that I've hit something of a lull as I'm trying to find different things to kind of dive into. I think I might just dive right into Fire Force next, because I've heard good things about it. I'm keeping up with Demon Slayer as it's coming out with the newest stuff, and Attack on Titan's not far away.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you've also
next month.
Yeah, you also dipped your toes into sports anime in a way, because didn't you watch Haikyuu?
I watched Haikyuu all the way through.
Haikyuu, yeah. So, yeah.
I watched Haikyuu all the way through, and it's one of the best anime I've watched. It's a great. It's great. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, there's been a lot of consensus about that particular one being really good, and I fairly certain I've watched a couple episodes, but I've never gone through the whole series yet. So
it's absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. What sucks about Haikyuu is that it's only on Crunchyroll.
Well, yeah, if you don't have a Crunchyroll thing, well, I mean, there's
you don't need it. You can watch it for free.
Right.
You just have to watch it with ads if you're watching on the TV.
Exactly.
Or if you're watching on the computer, you don't get ads.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, if it was something where it was a little bit more widespread, like Demon Slayer. Like Demon Slayer is on Netflix, I think.
That's correct. Yeah, a lot of more popular anime is on Netflix. Is in multiple places.
Exactly. Netflix doesn't have the latest episodes of Demon Slayer yet. That's only on Hulu, as in addition to Crunchyroll and Funimation. So, that would be one of my resolutions. I'm going to try to keep up on. I would also try to keep up on trying to get to the drawing table more often, even if it's just to hit a couple of pages in the sketchbook here and there. I fall into this bad habit of essentially drawing for the most part only during October for Inktober, and not doing anything else during the year, and that's a terrible habit because that's just not for a skill that you want to try to get better at. You just need to practice it. You can't just wait to kind of cram that practice into 1 month of the year.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So I just have to make time to just do even if it's just a couple of drawings a week or several drawings a month, as long as it's not just kind of crammed into October, then you can't help but get better. So related resolutions and New Year's intentions. I heard that the other day. Some people don't make resolutions, but they have intentions to go in certain directions. And so my intent is to do more of this, but not necessarily resolving to do it. So. Not make a resolution that's going to be a big change in life.
Right, because people tend to make resolutions and then drop them the next week, and it ends up being meaningless. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely a different way to look at that, or probably a better way to look at it.
Right. So ultimately, in terms of comic book related things, I've done a decent job of following through on some of it, but there's still some progress to be done in terms of the others, some of the other things. So, although, it does help, believe it or not, folks, before we sign off, it does help to actually verbalize this stuff because at the end of the day, and discuss it with other people of like mind, because, other like-minded people, because it helps you to, kind of actualize it and do and make good on it. Because if it wasn't for this show, I don't know if I would have gotten through my collection organizing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things I ever did in terms of my collection. And it's still proven to be a gigantic boon for me to this day, knowing exactly what's in my collection. And having it computerized and investing in that, one of these collector programs where you can use the barcode to enter your weekly pull list and enter that into your database without having to go through individually and finding the title and whatnot. Just scan the barcode and make sure it's the right one to be done with it.
Mm-hmm. Which, if you got a lot, both of us can attest to, it's tedious.
Yeah, it took a while, but it got done. And to finally get to the realization that I've got now I've got over 10,000, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it's not as much as some psychopaths out there, and I jokingly call them psychopaths, because that's a lot of comics,
Mm-hmm. Right, or a collection of anything. Because I think I was watching someone's the Boba Fett thing on Disney Plus, and they talk about Rancho Obi-Wan and the Star Wars collection there.
Oh yeah, that was jeez. That.
So if you're a collector of anything, like trying to have to organize and categorize any kind of collections is just going to be some sort of a feat if you haven't done it already.
Right, right. If you don't start when it's within some level of reason, then it's going to just be that many times worse when you finally get to doing it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's still, as I look behind me, a lot of things I need to do with my various collections and this particular room in general. So that's a work in progress. But anyway, that being said, folks, we are looking forward to go into the new year with some. I'm not going to say renewed verve because it's not like we ever really lost steam on the show, but you know, hopefully look into the new year for some new stuff and you know, another great year of comics. And again, like I said, we will probably, hopefully this time, certainly get our year-end deliberations out of the way, whether it just be with Agent 70I or hopefully the whole crew. But stay tuned for that after the beginning of the year. That being said, unless Agent 70, you got something else you want to say real quick before I sign it off?
Happy New Year!
There it is.
There
Happy
it is.
New Year. In this country, we say Happy New Year.
There it is.
Oh man, I need to watch that movie again. Trading Places is real good. And that being the case, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
My time is up. Peace out, your Brooklyn.